Hi folks, this is all the fruit, and today I'm foraging in the neighborhood known as Bahnstadt in the city of Heidelberg, Germany. Bahnstadt literally means train city or rail city, and it used to be a huge train station before. Now this train station has been completely demolished, except for a couple historic buildings like this one over there. This was some building in the remote part of the train station, and new office buildings and housing buildings have been built. They are still not completely done. As you can see, they are building stuff here. It's not that I like the architecture here too much, but they have planted some quite interesting stuff around here. Not just the city gardeners, but also the private people. They might have gardens the size of dinner tables, unfortunately, but they are doing whatever they can with it. Actually, I came here today to enjoy the mulberries, and still gonna do that. But yeah, I can still do a video while I do this. There are two ways to harvest mulberries. Either you pick them from the tree, and this one has a bumper crop, or you pick them from the ground. But on the ground you have stuff like rats and dogs and so on. The ones on the ground will definitely be ripe. Not all of them, but the ones on the tree are cleaner. By the way, most mulberries in Germany are a white mulberry. This is a white variety, which means that usually they are pretty bland. Those are a bit sweet, a bit sour, have a slight mulberry flavor, but they are nothing special. But there are thousands and thousands of them on this tree. What else have we got here? Hackberries are not in season yet. You could find some out of season hackberries which ripen in May or June, but normally they ripen in autumn. Oh, this one's also gonna have a bumper crop. Guess they're being watered here. Silverberries, on the other hand, the season must be over already. Yep, they ripen here in spring, and sometimes, if you are lucky, even in winter. By the way, yeah, it's always good to know how the weather of the last couple months was. So we had quite a harsh winter, harsher than the normal winters in Germany right now. Even with temperatures, it seems, down to minus 10 degrees centigrade, at about a week of constant frost and snow. I haven't seen any of the subtropical weeds surviving the winter as plants as they did in the last year. So here is a mulberry which is considerably sweeter but has small and very few fruits, and they are also not very good quality. The winter was pretty harsh for a 21st century German winter. Spring until the beginning or mid-May was cold and rainy. In April usually 12 degrees, which is normal for a German April, but nowadays we are more used to 25 to 30 degrees in April. But then the last couple of weeks, the last 4 or 5 weeks, we've had quite a severe drought. As you can see here, not only the grass, but the first shrubs are starting to die, and we have big trouble. We have to water all trees that were planted in the last couple years. So this was the weather of the last couple months. Now let's see if we can find some tastier mulberries. Couple interesting things were planted in this playground. I'm really happy that at least a couple of the old buildings of the train station survived. It's a giant train station, several square kilometers, and yeah, they demolished it, but they saved a couple of the old buildings. Yeah, they planted a couple fig trees. Amazing that those survived on a playground, but they are not in season yet. Fruits are very small. Some fox grapes. The good thing is you don't need to water or fertilize or prune, or most important of all, spray them. They will fruit very reliably. But we are June and they will be ripe in October. Here another Very interesting tree, a domestic pine, which produces edible nuts, which you can find in Mediterranean shops. However, I don't see a single cone here at the young male cones, but the huge female cones. Yes, I can see a young female cone over there, but I think they need like 3 years to ripen, and this one is still far too small. Lots of cherry trees. The cherry season this year was shit, man. I found 1 or 2 good cherry trees and 50, 60, I don't know, 100 which I checked, which were not very good. And those here, they seem to be completely devoid of any cherry. I don't know if they, well, they might be an ornamental variety. They look like Prunus avium, but those could be dried up flowers. It could be that they are an ornamental variety. Let's check the dried up flowers. Flowers are quite full. Yeah, well, they could have no fruits because they're ornamental cherries. What a waste. A lot of people just don't want to clean cherries off the pavement. Water is always good. Water is life. A bit of water on my hot feet. It's evening, it's around 7 o'clock in the evening, but still quite hot. Yeah, amazing. Just a couple weeks ago it was still the winter cold, now it's hot. Okay, now let's see what we can find here. A purple elderberry. All the organs of the shrub are kind of purplish, and I guess it doesn't get enough water because there are just very few little berries. Here a couple more cherries, but those actually do look like ornamental cherries, and I don't see a single fruit on them. Let's see what we can find in the private gardens. Olive and laurel cherry, grapes, but not fox grapes. Cotoneaster horizontalis, there are still even a couple red edible berries on this one. Have to be careful not to run over somebody. Sour cherries here in this little private garden. Some jasmine-like stuff here. There are lots of little gardens here. Okay, let me stop before I cause an accident. There are lots of little gardens down here. Actually, we're here on the elevated location of the old train station. But those gardens where a lot of Germans spent their days and their weekends and their retirement. They will be much more interesting for foraging, but not today. Here a feral walnut shrub. Here some cherries. Very plentiful harvest, but not ripe yet, and I bet they're gonna be bitter. Let's try one of the half-ripe cherries. Bitter. Lots of rosemary. 20-30 years ago, rosemary shrubs of that size wouldn't have been possible in Germany, especially not in such an unprotected location. Rosemary is a Mediterranean plant, and before the climate change it froze in exposed locations in Germany. Most people would grow it in a pot, but now the stuff is taller than me and is here in a quite unprotected location. Very, very impressive proof that climate change is real. Oh, and wonderful taste, but you need something to cook it with. In some of those little side rows they had a nice selection of different color and taste mulberries, but not in this one, it seems. Anything edible here? I guess the locals are planting those things. That's a bit too much work for gardeners. This is some malvaceae. Just like this one. They should be edible. This looks like Coix lacrimaiovi, but it's what is the name of this thing? Kind of suspect it's edible too. What do we have among those? buildings. Oh, look at that. Black currant, raspberries, gooseberries, spineless blackberries. I'm not gonna pick those, probably somebody planted them here and maybe his kids are just eagerly expecting the fruits, a few fruits every day. Not gonna pick those. Oh, look at that, that's one of the black raspberry species. It's an American one, I think, but I forgot the name. Look at the beautiful color. So the black one is the ripe one. Normally in European raspberries the red ones would be the ripe ones, but here it's the black one. Well, laurel cherry. Fruits are kind of edible, but not too edible. Prunus mahaleb. The mahaleb cherry, or what is it? Well, the fruits and the seeds are both edible, but quite bitter and not in season yet, and I don't even see a single fruit here. And, well, let's go a little bit further. I see a lot of interesting stuff here. The Saskatoon hasn't got enough water, probably. There's not a single berry on it. Hibiscus syriacus, that's also edible. Different types of ornamental apples. They're ornamental, but they are still edible. And somebody was clever enough to put water bags here. Those bags are being filled with water, let's say once a week, and then they slowly release the water over a week. Here we have some type of kiwi. It's not the normal kiwi, it's something with smaller leaves, some interesting kiwi. Well, what else have we got here? A fig tree. Also not in season. Let's go back to my bike before my backpack gets legs. Oh yeah, when the Germans say something is getting legs, that means that something is being stolen, something is being carried away. Cornel cherries, not ripe yet. The Germans use them as ornamentals, but in the countries where they come from, for example Bulgaria, they are being used as a fruit. They are quite sour and astringent, and very good if you have the runs as a remedy for the runs. The Mediterranean holm oak, two trees which survive quite well here. Mediterranean holm oak is a climatic indicator of Mediterranean climate. It's almost a miracle they survive here. Look at this nice garden, cucumbers and tomatoes. Okay, yeah. Foraging from the bike. Here again some raspberries. Foraging from the bike. It's not too easy. Lots of figs. They're very popular in new gardens. I mean, usually in Germany you can steal some cherries or apples everywhere, but figs, it's good to have a tree in your own garden. Oh, and here I think is one of those side roads I was talking about. Lots of different mulberries of different varieties. As you can see, the leaves are different, but look at that. This one, I see just a couple very puny fruits. What about this one? Couple shriveled up fruits. Not good, not good. Remember when those trees were young, freshly planted, they were being watered by the city gardeners, but at the same time they had good fruits. Here, different varieties. Those leaves look very different from those leaves. Maybe we'll be luckier. Yes, there are more fruits on this one and bigger ones too. But the tree is too high to get anything. There is almost nothing on the ground. The flavor is better, and this one is sweet. But in this tree there should also be some of darker color. Nope, everything is white. Wrong street maybe. Wrong street. This tree has some slightly pinkish, purplish ones. Oh. Tastes boring. Yeah. And I was just munching on some rock. And this tree here has black ones, but it's still the white mulberry, Morus alba. Good stuff, apart from the scent. But yeah, quite tasty. Yeah, quite sweet and flavorful. Another interesting bunch of gardens. Here a fig tree. Some really prolific grapevines. Look at the number of those grapes. I hope they will all ripen nicely. Still, I guess when they ripen, most of them will be gone very quickly. Same with this here, beautiful prolific grape. More grapes. And here kiwi berries. Kiwi berries also extremely prolific. I guess this person is watering and fertilizing its fruits. Look at that. Lots and lots of kiwi berries. Thousands of kiwi berries here. And an apple tree which is also quite well developed, but I think, yeah, it should really be pruned soon. Another white mulberry tree with white colored white mulberry fruits. Not completely ripe, but quite sweet. Next to it a planted ornamental Prunus mahaleb. Yeah, very few fruits on this one. Funny, this one should have no trouble at all with the drought. They see only very few fruits on it. I wonder for what reason. Maybe it had more trouble with the cold and wet spring than with the dry early summer. What a waste, a whole street full of ornamental cherries. Oh, here a good variegated fig, another fig. Let's stop here. A nice kaki, some zucchinis and strawberries, and an olive tree in a pot. Olives, yeah, some people would already grow them outdoors in Germany. Let me park my bike, but yeah, every couple years you get a big disappointment and it's back to the pots. This one fortunately is still in a pot. Here on this side, something very important for wine production, a cork oak. Yeah, for centuries this was really necessary for wine bottles. The rind of this tree is what the corks are made from. It's being very carefully skinned or peeled. The first harvest, this one will still be very bumpy, so you probably use it, yeah, well, in older times they use it for floats or for swimming vests or for stuff. Only the second harvest is gonna be, well, the second and the following harvests are gonna be nice. Nowadays they take every part of the rind of the cork, just grind it up and press it into semi-artificial corks. So now it's not as much of an art making corks as it used to be. Before the square was developed, there was a community garden here, and it seems that something has survived. It might be really small, but there is still something. Let's see what they are gardening. Somebody has even written some signs. Those should be carrots. Hier wächst Karotte. Here grows carrot. Well, carrots need very loose soil and a lot of watering. Those here, I hope they get enough water. Well, actually no. Those here, look at that. Those here have completely dried up before even having a chance to develop a decent size root. But those here, maybe somebody will be able to harvest them. Next to them, beetroots. I'm not gonna pick anything. I'm not stealing from people who have like 20 square meters. I will steal from a farmer who has 20 acres of carrots, but not from a community garden. Well, here, beetroots. This red, healthy stuff, which, yeah, is quite small here, I guess because of lack of water. Calendula, this is false saffron. Well, you can use it as saffron. It's much less expensive. Small sunflower. Oh, kidney beans. I wonder if those beans are gonna come something. Look at that. Even the rosemary is wilting. And what is this? Violets. They are already dead. Well, I guess gardening, especially watering in that heat, is hard work. Here, as you can read from the sign, are the tomatoes, and they are being watered well enough, but not in season yet after the late and cold spring. More tomatoes. I'm skipping all the ornamentals, although most of them can also be used in a culinary way. Those are either very underdeveloped peppers or basil. I would say those are peppers. Some type of cabbage, but I don't think it's gonna become anything edible. And here this should be some spinach, but it seems like it's in the second year because it's flowering. Not even sure if it's real spinach. Here a couple bigger plants also in flower. Some other beetroot type, but this is also from last year. Well, could be beetroot, could be mangold, could be something that was grown for the young leaves. Somebody has harvested all the strawberries. Here a couple more kidney beans, those are even flowering. And what was this? This was something which you could use as a substitute for spinach. Please tell me the name. And here's some black nightshade. Asians eat the ripe fruits and even the unripe ones. Africans eat the leaves. Europeans think it's a toxic wheat. Well, Europeans, especially Germans, have had a lot of bad experiences with eating potato fruits. This is a potato, and when the potatoes were introduced, actually I have to tell the story one day. The Germans with their potatoes and cabbages. Actually, when the potato was introduced to Prussia, nobody wanted to grow it, so the king just put some guards around his potato fields, and people thought this stuff is so valuable. They are guards, we must steal it. But the guards had instruction to look away and let the people steal it. So suddenly everybody was growing it illegally, not knowing how to harvest it. People were eating the fruits and dying left and right. Lots of honey locusts here in this, well, what is it, square, park, playground. Looks very American. Haven't seen other such places in Germany. Well, the honey locust coincidentally is also from America, with edible fruits which taste quite good if you are lucky. If you are unlucky, they taste horrible. It's really a gamble. Well, those little back alleys and backyards, modern back alleys and backyards seem to be quite prolific. So let's get there. Nothing too exciting on this playground. Lots of different roses. Most of the modern rose cultivars don't have good fruits. That's maybe the worst thing about modern rose cultivars. The fruits are shit. You can neither eat them nor use them for tea. Ribes aureum, an ornamental currant with beautiful golden flowers, beautiful berries, although those here are too tiny. But the berries are not very tasty, that's why it's mostly an ornamental, and the rootstock for other currants. More apple trees, but I guess that this is the entrance to some sort of private or semi-private part. Okay, I'm not gonna disturb them. Another apple tree, yeah? Gardeners are thinking ahead, watering the trees. However, I don't know if such small bags will save the trees, but they might just make the necessary difference. A Saskatoon, however, it looks like some of the modern species or varieties. For decades they were planting really tasty sweet Saskatoon in Germany. Basically, it tasted the same everywhere and it tasted perfect everywhere. And this modern stuff tastes like aronia. I don't like aronia too much. Here an oat rose hip from last year. Yeah, this is a wild or feral rose or a rootstock of some modern rose cultivar, so the rose hips are good to eat, but not in season, of course. And here this seems to be could be some ornamental rose. The older varieties have good rose hips, but not the modern ones. Bearberries, however, most of the European species are bitter and non-edible. 2 rowans between the apple trees. Rowan fruits are also edible, but you should heat them first to remove the toxins. Oh, and look at that, kiwi berries. Somebody planted. Oh, nice. Somebody's made a kiwi collection here, but they forgot to water them enough. Those are some kiwi berries, probably Cnidia colomicta or arguta. Lichten, well, kiwiri. The company is kiwiri, but I cannot read the variety. But they are kiwis. Yeah, must water and fertilize your kiwis, folks. And here, 1 or even 2 different kiwi species. I think those will be the big hairy kiwis, and those are some other kiwi berries. Nice. Maybe in a couple years, when those plants are big, there will be stuff to harvest here. An interesting maze-like structure of those gardens. They are trying to make the spaces look bigger. Here a pear. However, do you see the spines? It seems to be a wild or feral pear. What happened here? 2 stems. It's possible that all this is just the rootstock. If there are spines even up here, there are spines on the oldest and thickest branches and small fruits. Either they just planted some primitive or feral or wild pear as an ornamental, or they wanted to plant an edible pear, it died, and then they just preserved those 3 stems coming up from the rootstock. I guess they rely on your discretion not to just walk into their gardens. A red currant over there. Well, here they have a clever way. They planted the bush behind the entrance, so that has a bit of protection. Nice, nice. I like this. I mean, I would prefer if they were given bigger public parks in this new neighborhood, but I like what they are doing with the tiny public parks. Mellow, I guess this is Malva sylvestris var mauritiana. Every part is edible as long as it's still tender enough. And the fruits, the so-called cheeselets, which look like cheese, and according to some people even taste like cheese. A lot of the old Germans say that in the hungry years after World War II, those cheeselets saved them. They ate a lot of them, and those old people, they still swear that those cheeselets, they taste like cheese. For me, they just taste like a slimy fruit, but every time I find the mellow, I eat 1 or 2 just to remember those old folks who were little kids in 45. They didn't start World War II, but they suffered a lot, especially in the hungry years after the war. I mean, during World War II, Germany was stealing the food from all of Europe, so they were not starving, but like in 45, 46, 47, 48, they relied a lot on those little mellow cheeselets. Here a very different concept, a lot more concrete, everything a lot more open, still looks nice. Here they planted an olive tree, I hope it survives. The fig tree has much better chances to survive. Let's see, yeah, figs and olives again, honey locust, nothing new around here. Yeah, but I like exploring those modern maze-like neighborhoods. Oh, kids, you pick those apples far too early. Wait a couple more months, then you cannot just throw them at each other, but also eat them. Oh, here, see this hedge? The big leaves are an Aristolochia, but the smaller with the 5 leaflets, that's chocolate vine. Chocolate vine is a popular ornamental in Germany. However, the only place where I've seen it fruiting is in my street, because they have a lot of plants there, so they can pollinate each other. I'm still to find a second place where I can harvest the tasty, huge chocolate vine fruits. Yet another inner courtyard design or little park design, this time without conspicuous edible fruits. Yeah, I like exploring those stuff, and I like that the people are watering. Yeah, I also watered my 3 passion fruit plants today. Cannot let, oh, look, a nectarine tree. Cannot let the future of your fruit supplies go bad just because of some drought. A small banana, probably Musa Basio, that's the only one that will survive here. Well, the only one that has a decent chance to survive here. Let's see what we have here. Small red ornamental apples. Some sort of silverberry. But this one, a rare case where it was grown as a tree. This stuff that looks like a poplar is actually a maple. Here somebody planted some interesting stuff. Oh, look at this cute little garden. Oh yeah, that's interesting. Look at that. Gooseberries, and they are taking good care of them. Look at the crop here. Very good gooseberry crop. Kohlrabi and strawberries, and here's something that was quite unusual for Germany until a couple of decades ago, a watermelon. But with climate change and modern varieties, you actually have a decent chance to grow watermelons in Germany. Peppers, grapevines, cucumbers. Don't even know what this is. It's too small for a sweet potato. Maybe you can tell me what this is. An eggplant, pumpkins, tomatoes, and more peppers, more tomatoes. Beautiful. Different herbs. one potato bunch, more strawberries, and red currant. Beautiful tiny little garden. Whoever has no garden is growing stuff on their balcony. Yeah, I was like this for years as a teenager. Had no garden, so I was growing, well, at least my mother had a big apartment, so I was growing a lot of stuff on the balconies, and of course in winter I had to bring all my 20-30 citrus trees inside, because I grew every seed from the orange juice or from the mandarins. Yeah, had a lot of trouble with my mother, with my dozens of citrus pots. Oh, look at that, the hedge is dying. Yeah, well, this stuff reminds me of, some flats of my childhood. Okay, here's some Saskatoon and a lot of birches. Beautiful. Every one of those little courtyards is different. Beautiful, even from an architectural point of view. Okay, I didn't like this area so much, but now, oh, look at that. A kiddie staircase. Look at how tall this staircase is. And 5 meters above ground, the kitty is sitting. Oh, that's so cute, folks. There are people who eat kitties. Poor kitty. After the last undeveloped part of the area, let's go back and see what we can find in the developed part. Along the central axis of the neighborhood, they are trying to create some sort of river. Here is still the undeveloped part, I would say. Well, it kind of looks like a channel or a canal. Yeah, could be interesting weeds in here. There was a time like 5-6 years in a row where my main focus was on weeds. And I loved this area because we had hectares, acres of abandoned rail stations, so I found a lot of rare weeds here. And actually, forgot to mention this. Let's go there. Actually, part of those parks were made by no other than myself. Yeah, I doubt that many of today's residents of this neighborhood know this, but the first part of their parks was actually designed and made by myself. Even before they started building those buildings here, we collected all the rare weeds from the railroad. The city paid us for that. And planted them on the slope. Yeah, I designed this part, and I think, yeah, well, I planted and sowed the first couple kilometers of such slopes. Not sure this is the last part. I'm not sure if I even participated in this thing here. But basically, yes, this part of the parks that looks just like normal weeds, but it's actually a wonderful habitat for rare plants, rare insects, and rare reptilians, was more or less designed by myself and was more or less planted by myself over the course of 2 years. And it seems they are spreading a bit. Oh yeah, this thing, what was it? Centaurea diffusa. This is a complex species, but here in the state of Baden-Württemberg it's quite rare. Outside the city of Mannheim it's quite rare, so in Heidelberg it's quite rare. We did save it. Very good for insects, but in America I read that the US, they have given up like 30,000-40,000 square miles to this plant because it's impossible to kill it. Or here, Gallium verum. This plant you can use instead of rennet to make cheese, to curd milk. Was it this? Yes, I think it's this species. You throw it into milk and you basically get cheese. Or this here, Dianthus carthusianorum. This is the pimpernel of the Carthusian monks. They used it as a medicine and planted it everywhere where they had their monasteries. All those plants are typical for really dry places like railroads where you have a lot of gravel. Or here, oregano. This is the temperate one, not the one from the Italian pizza, but you can also use this one. Yeah, I saved all those things and planted them here. Sage, wild sage. Actually, most of those, well, I've transplanted some of them and sold most of them. But yeah, I haven't been here for many years. Oh, Anhusa azorea, a really rare, beautiful thing. Well, right now it's not so beautiful because of the drought, but I like the wonderful blue color of this one. Very few other plants have this color. Yeah, I'm really glad to see that the work I did here 15 years ago, that there is still, it's still looking pretty good. Yeah, surprisingly good. I'm really happy to see this. They spent tens of millions to save the lizards, and out of those tens of millions of euros, actually a couple thousand euros were invested into saving the rare herbs and weeds of this railroad before it became a new neighborhood. Yep, I really thought that after 15 years, basically my heritage, my legacy here would be destroyed, but no, it's in quite good condition, maybe because of the dry year. Trachycarpus fortunae. Those are Himalayan palms, one of the most hardy palm species in the world, one of the few palm species which can grow here in Germany. It's funny seeing palms growing right next to a cherry, and actually this cherry does have some quite big fruits. Another ornamental pear. Not only are they not in season, not only are they not tasty, not only are the fruits not tasty, but the flowers are also not tasty. The flowers of the domestic pear, Pyrus communis, are the tastiest fruit tree flowers ever, but the flowers of most ornamental pears are just as bad as the fruits. Another nice yard design, however, the cherries are ornamental cherries. Well, you could pick the fruits of the hawthorns which are growing behind the cherries. Either the fruits in autumn or the flowers in spring. Both are edible. Apart from that, well, I think those... Oh, what was it? What was the name of this lily? I'm pretty sure the flowers were edible and nice and spicy. I hope I don't confuse it with some toxic species. I'm confused. Tell me the name of this one, please, and whether it's edible or whether I have to die. Another chocolate vine growing here. Cannot see any fruits on it. Here a Virginia creeper, a relative of the grapevine. Here finally a Prunus mahalep, which actually has a lot of cherries. When they are fully ripe, they are kind of edible. You can eat the cherry, then you can crack the seed. Kind of edible, not too bitter. Actually, in some countries, they are collected mostly from the seeds, for the seeds, which are being used as type of bitter elements. Trying to separate the seed from the stone. Here's some Prunus avium, some bigger domestic cherry. Yeah, the seed of the Prunus mahalep is not too bad. It's too much work to process it. Actually, I stopped my bike to check this tree. Whenever you see something that looks edible but you don't know what it is, you should always stop and check it. Okay, it's some diseased Prunus mahalep. Not looking good. Oh, but here are those. Are those the edible lily flowers? I think those were edible. Yeah, tastes edible. And there is a big drop of nectar inside. Please tell me the name and whether it's edible or whether I poisoned myself. A little blue plum tree. It's not gonna be in season for quite some time. Look at the fruit, it's still completely green. But the cherry plums should be coming in season now quite fast. Let's look for cherry plums. Well, here is the part where they developed this river-like fountains. However, I read about a lot of troubles like this stuff clogging up with algae and things. Oh, flowering quince. The good thing about here is some more flowering quince. Look at the nice red flowers. The good thing is flowering quince is not just flowering, it's also a fruiting quince. The fruits are just as useful as the fruiting quince fruits. Flowering quince, it's Chenomeles. The normal Middle Eastern to European quince is Sidonia. Yes, a cherry plum. The good thing is it grows feral everywhere in Europe. It's actually quite invasive. And here I guess people know what they have because see, no fruits, almost no fruits on the lower branches, but on the slightly higher branches there are tons of them. Good that I'm slightly taller than the average. It's the only plum where the unripe fruits are tasty. Sour but tasty. If I would try to eat the unripe fruits of the blue plum, they would be just disgusting. Let's see, what is this sign? Privatdurchgang verboten. Well, I guess they should have put a sign, Pinkeln verboten. Lots of poppies here. Yeah, last flowers. Well, actually no. Here you have still a lot of buds, I guess. They flower more. They don't flower in the hot afternoon. From the seed pods of some poppy species you can make opium, but not from this species. And here a rhodium, also a very interesting fruit, which is a natural drill. This fruit basically screws itself into the ground to get a better start in life. And here Lactuca seriola, the wild ancestor of the common lettuce. Coming to the end of the Bahnstadt neighborhood. Well, I came here for mulberries, and mulberry wise it was quite a disappointment. I got some but not too many and not a good quality. So from now on I'll go to other areas of Heidelberg if I want to forage for mulberries, but at least I managed to make some foraging video, although without too much true foraging. Well, there is a good Vietnamese takeaway in the train station, so at least I'm not gonna starve.